Hello everyone. So in today's video we'll be discussing some questions of NEET. Basically we'll be dealing some questions that have come in NEET 2024 as well as in NEET 2016. Now why I am taking questions from NEET 2016 also because it has been considered as the toughest NEET exam till date by many students, right? So we'll see some questions, important questions of that. And basically this video also, like the previous one where we discussed JEE advanced questions, this video also is intended to help you know the concept behind solving the question. Now solving NEET questions is a very simple task and a quick one, but the concepts, once you know the concepts, then you can solve them very quickly. What are the do's and don'ts, that also we will see through these examples. Okay, so we'll start with the first question. As I told, we'll be taking selective questions. So the first question that you can see on your screen: an electron of mass m and a photon have same energy E. The ratio of de Broglie wavelengths associated with them is what? Now first of all, let me tell all of you, this is not de Broglie as is pronounced by not only by students, even by several teachers also they pronounce it de Broglie, but the name is not de Broglie, it's de Broglie. Okay, so now we all have this facility of searching anything in Google. You can go and check for the pronunciation of that. It's de Broglie. And de Broglie wavelength is asked: an electron of mass m and photon, they have the same energy, the ratio of their de Broglie wavelengths. Again, this thing should be clear in this particular question. When they don't mention anything about the energy of electron, we'll have to take it as the kinetic energy. Photon energy is always kinetic. When we talk about the energy of photon, photons can never exist at rest. Photon energy is always kinetic energy, and we write it as hc by lambda of photon, right? Hc by lambda of photon, and h by lambda is also the momentum of the photon. So we can say momentum of the photon multiplied by speed of light. This is the energy. They have given that this energy is equal to E, right? Now talking about the kinetic energy of the electron, we know kinetic energy is half mv square. In the question they have given the mass of electron as m. Now they have not given the speed, but what we can do from here is, if we take one mv square, if you see from here, what we can do is we can write it also as, you know, p squared by 2m. So p square by 2m. Clear? So this is p square by 2m. This value is also given as E. Now in the question what they are asking is, they are asking the ratio of de Broglie wavelengths. Photon wavelength is not called de Broglie wavelength. De Broglie wavelength is the wavelength associated with moving particles like electrons and all. So anyways, we will see what is the lambda of de Broglie wavelength of electron by wavelength of photon, lambda E by lambda P. Now for any case, lambda of photon, as we know, is h by p, and lambda of electron, de Broglie wavelength, is h by pe. Clear? So lambda E by lambda p, lambda as you can see is inversely proportional to the momentum. So we can write it as momentum of photon by momentum of electron. Now what is the momentum of photon? If you see from here, we can write it as E by C. And what is the momentum of electron? We can write from here. Can you see from here? Pe square can be written as 2me. So this will become under root 2m. So if I take E by C inside under root, if I take under root here, E, if I take inside, it should become E square. Similarly, c square, and rest of the terms are already inside the root, so like this. So what should be our final answer? E by 2m c squared under root. So the options that you are seeing over there, E by 2m, c square can be taken outside also. So if you take c square outside, it will become 1 by c. So first option you will be getting as the correct one. I hope it is clear. Okay, let's now move to our next question. So what is the next question we are having? We have been given a uniform circular disc of radius 50 cm, it is at rest and free to turn about an axis which is perpendicular to its plane and passes through the center. So we have a circular disc which is free to turn, radius of the disc is also given. You can see in the question. Now it is subjected to a torque which produces a constant angular acceleration of 2 radian per second square. Its net acceleration in meter per second square at the end of 2 seconds is approximately. So here we need to know, there is a bit of correction because this question particularly for this particular question which has come in year 2016, they did not mention the acceleration of which point. Now different points will have different acceleration. So here we have to assume because the 4 options that are given, that will be means you will get the answer which has been already given only when you assume a point on the periphery of the disc. So basically here we have a disc. So in question they did not mention, but actually they are asking about the acceleration of a point which is on the periphery of the disc. So due to a torque, when we are seeing the top view of the disc, so you can see this is the axis which is passing through O. Now due to a torque, it is having an angular acceleration alpha. Now you can see from here, I hope the entire screen is visible to you. So you can see here that alpha value is given constant at 2 radian per second square, and the radius of the disc r, this is also given 50 centimeter, which we can write as 0.5 meter. Now they are asking at the end of 2 seconds. So it is initially at rest. So initially it was at rest. We are seeing the diagram at t equals to 2 seconds. So when it is at t equals to 2 seconds, it will get a tangential acceleration which is alpha r. Alpha is 2, radius is 0.5, 2 into 0.5, this will become 1. So this will become 1 meter per second square. Remember, whenever the unit of alpha is in radian per second square, then we multiply by r, you will get in meter per second square. Now it will also get an angular speed at t equals to 2. The angular speed becomes, suppose, omega. So if it becomes omega, there will be a centripetal acceleration also, which is directed obviously towards the center. What is the expression for AC? AC we know is v square by r or omega square r, whichever you can find. Now how to find omega? Since alpha is constant, so you can use omega is equals to omega initial plus alpha t. When constant alpha is given, then omega can be found at time t as omega is equals to omega initial plus alpha t. Initially the disk was at rest, so 0. So here alpha is given as how much? 2, and time has been given as 2. So this becomes 4 radian per second. So when you substitute the centripetal acceleration, obviously we are talking about the point P. Let me write over here the centripetal acceleration and tangential acceleration of the point P we are taking, a point on the periphery of the disk. So omega squared r, 4 4s are 16 and 0.5, 16 into 0.5 becomes 8, right? So they are asking about the net acceleration of the point P, which will be the resultant of the centripetal and tangential accelerations. So one is 8, one is 1. So it will become root 64 plus 1 root 65, which is very close to 64 only. 65 is very close to 64. Answer will be approximately 8 meter per second square. So let's see which option, the first one. So it is very close to 8 meter per second square. I hope you got this concept. So you have to find the two accelerations, tangential, centripetal. After finding these two, the resultant acceleration can be obtained as this. Okay. Now coming to the next question. This question, as you can see, it is from Young's double slit experiment, YDSC. This is a conceptual question that has again come in 2016 NEET. So see the question properly and how to solve it, what things you should be remembering for this. This type of questions are very common and we keep on telling students the method, the strategy. We'll again discuss it over here. The intensity at the maximum in YDSC is I naught. The maximum intensity in YDSC is given as I naught. Distance between the two slits is small d is equals to 5 lambda. You can see in the question in the screen, where lambda is the wavelength of light used in the experiment. What will be the intensity in front of one of the slits on the screen plane at a distance capital D is equals to 10 d. Small d is given as 5 lambda, capital D is equals to 10 d. Let's draw the diagram and then we'll try to analyze the situation and explain what all needs to be done. So here in YDSC we have these two slits, S1 and S2. Now here this is the screen. So in the diagram, now this is the central line which is the perpendicular bisector of the line joining the slits. Here this is standard YDSC, this is the central maxima position. So here central maxima, we know intensity at O is maximum, and we know that in YDSC all the maximas have the same intensity. Every intensity will be I naught only because they have given the intensity at maxima is I naught. So every maxima will have this intensity. But now they are talking about a point directly in front of one of the slits. So we can consider this. Let's take this point as P. Now we know that this distance is small d, which in question they have given in terms of wavelength of light as 5 lambda. This is capital D, which they have given as how much? 10 d, which we can say is 50 lambda. Clear? Now this distance, what will be this distance? Can you let me know? Yes, small d is 5 lambda. This is half d by 2. This is the height of the point P, YP. So if we take this angle as theta, obviously YP d by 2 will be very small than capital D. So if it is very small, so we know that theta angle will be small. So theta is small, so for small angles sin theta approximately equal to theta. Now when we are asked what is the intensity at the point P, what is the intensity at the point P? So now what we do, due to each slit, suppose the intensity due to each slit IS1 and IS2 is I, say. So you should be knowing that maximum intensity in standard YDSC is 4I. That means from here we can say that I will be equal to I naught by 4. Is it true? I max is 4I, so I will be I naught by 4. Clear? Now, talking about the intensity, you should know that in standard YDSC, when the intensity due to each slit is same, intensity due to each slit individually at the point P is I. So IP in YDSC, the resultant intensity, we know the formula as I max cos square delta phi by 2, where delta phi is the phase difference. I max is already known to us, this value is already known to us as I naught. Only thing that we have to find is delta phi. Now delta phi is the phase difference. How to find the phase difference? When there is a very important and easy to remember formula. Phase difference is equals to 2 pi by lambda into path difference. And path difference in standard YDSC is nothing but d sin theta, where we take the angular position of the point from the center here. Remember, theta is taken from the center of the line joining the two slits. From there we take the angular position of any point on the screen. So d sin theta. But as I said that this height is very small compared to capital D. So in such case d sin theta is approximately d theta. For small angle, sin theta, tan theta both are equal to theta in radians. Now what is theta? Tan theta, sin theta, theta all are same. So that is y by d. So theta is nothing but perpendicular by base, height by d. Again telling, for small angle, sin theta, tan theta are approximately same. So tan theta is height by base. So yp by capital D. So if I now substitute, I get 2 pi by lambda into, what is this given? Small d. What is yp? Small d by 2. This is the value. Now let's substitute. 2 pi by lambda into small d is how much? 5 lambda. So d square will become 25 lambda square. And capital D is 50 lambda, 52s are 100 lambda. So you can very well see from here, 25 2s are 50, so 2. So lambda by 2. So here we are getting delta phi as lambda by, not lambda by 2, lambda तो cancels, so we are having pi by 2. Now if it is pi by 2, so substitute here I naught cos square, delta phi was pi by 2, so this will become pi by 4. Pi by 4 means 45 degree, cos 45 is 1 by root 2, cos square is 1 by 2. So what is the intensity at that point? I naught by 2. So let's see which option we have. Fourth option, I naught by 2. I hope you got this point. So whenever they ask you intensity in standard YDSC, I max cos square delta phi by 2. First find delta phi using 2 pi by lambda into part difference. Part difference is d sin theta for standard YDSC, and sin theta for small angle, sin theta and tan theta are almost equal to theta, which is y by d. Substitute the value of y, you will get the phase difference. Once you get phase difference, substitute in that expression for intensity, you will get the intensity at any point. Clear? Okay. So this being done, let's move to next question. We are taking different types of questions of different concepts. All are PYQs and important ones. So this will help you understand how to solve or tackle such type of questions. And every time I keep on stressing on the point that concept is required. Once you know the concept, question solving is very easy, very fast. Next question we are taking again on wave optics, but it is of diffraction. So this question they have given in diffraction pattern due to a single slit of width a. Small a, you can see in the question, small a is the width of the single slit in the diffraction pattern. The first minimum is observed at angle 30 degree when light of wavelength 5000 angstrom is incident on the slit. The first secondary maximum is observed at what angle, they are asking. So you should know regarding diffraction by the diagram. Diffraction when we consider due to a single slit, this is the width of the slit, they have given as A. Now here also from the center of the slit we consider angle in YDSC as well as in diffraction from the center. Now here on the screen, this point O is the central maxima of the diffraction. Here you get central maxima. Now if you consider any point P on here at an angle theta, when we take here theta, we are taking positive. When we take theta down, we take negative. Theta up, we will take as positive. Okay? Because the central maxima will be flanked on both sides by the minimas and the secondary maximas. Apart from central maxima, all the other maximas which are obtained in diffraction pattern are called the secondary maximas, because their intensity is not same as central maxima, their intensity is lesser. In YDSC or in interference, all the maximas have the same intensity, but in diffraction, central maxima has the highest intensity and the intensity gradually becomes lesser and lesser as we move away from the central maxima above or below. This thing should be remembered. Now this is the point P. This point P has an angular position theta is equals to theta. Angular position theta is equals to theta. So at point P, what we should remember, at the point P, for minima, the condition is A sin theta is equals to, now I said it can be above or below, so plus minus n lambda, where lambda is the wavelength of light used and n can be 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. This is the condition for minima. And for secondary maxima means we are excluding the central one. For secondary maxima is not exactly but approximately in middle of two successive minimas or two adjacent minimas. In between two adjacent minimas, almost at the mid it comes, because the diffraction pattern is generally not very much extended. The pattern is very close to each other, all the fringes are close to each other, so almost we can consider the secondary maxima to be at the mid of the two adjacent minimas. So for secondary maxima, the condition becomes A sin theta is equals to plus minus 2n plus 1 lambda by 2. Again the values of n are to be taken as 1, 2, 3 and so on. So they are saying for the first minima the angle is given as 30 degree. For first minima I can write A sin theta, they have given theta as 30, so it will become A by 2, and n lambda, n can be written as 1, so lambda, you can use plus minus also, because as I said above or below, plus minus lambda. This is our first expression. Now they are asking what is the angular position of first secondary maximum. For first secondary maximum we will write A sin theta is equals to, put over here n is equals to 1, 2 plus 1, 3 lambda by 2. But what you can say, plus minus lambda from first equation, can I write a by 2? So from here a cancels, sin theta is obtained as 3 by 4. So sin inverse 3 by. So angular position above and below the central maxima is sin inverse 3 by 4 for the first secondary maxima. I hope this question is also clear to all of you. Very easy topic, diffraction. Just a basic formula needs to be remembered, which I have explained over there, what is to be taken for the positions. And whenever you are seeing small angles, you can take the approximation sin theta approximately equals to theta. But here we could not take the approximation because for secondary minima, for the minima, they have given the angle is 30 degree. 30 degree is not a small angle, so we cannot take small angle approximation over here. Okay, now moving on to our next question. Well, this question has come in 2024 NEET, and here also there is one concept which you all should be aware of so that you don't make mistake. You can see the diagram in the question. A ray of light is incident and there is a right angled prism. Angle of incidence is 30 degree shown, and it travels through the prism parallel to the base BC and emerges along the base, emerges along the face AC. The refractive index of the prism is. First thing, there is a misconception. Many times students get confused and they think that if the ray is parallel to the base inside the prism, it is case of minimum deviation. No, it is not always. When the ray is parallel to the base inside the prism, it is the case of minimum deviation only in case of an isosceles prism. Now you may say, sir, what isosceles? It is for equilateral also. So you should know that equilateral is also isosceles. Or if two sides are equal, then it is isosceles. Equilateral has all the three sides equal. So equilateral is also an isosceles triangle only. So for an isosceles triangular prism, when the ray undergoes minimum deviation, then it is parallel to the base. But if the prism is not given to be isosceles and they are saying that the ray is moving parallel to the base, don't take it as minimum deviation. Clear? So let's understand this question by the diagram which they have given. Again, I am drawing over here. They have given, this is a right angled prism, and from the diagram also we can see that it is in no way isosceles. So this is our angle of prism which is at A. Why it is at A? Angle of prism is always taken as the dihedral angle between the two faces which are undergoing refraction, at which refraction is occurring. I am sorry for my words. At the two faces where refraction is occurring. So you can see in the question, the diagram itself makes it clear that first the ray is hitting the face AB, then it is moving parallel to the base, and they are saying that it is grazing the face AC. So this is the angle of prism. So what is the angle of prism over here? It is given as 90 degree. Now they have given this angle of incidence I as 30 degree. Clear? What is the angle of emergence? Grazing means 90 degree. Now they are asking for mu. So this was the only data provided. Now how to get this one? First of all, if this is 90, let's take this angle as theta. Now if this angle is theta, since it is parallel to the base, this will be also theta. If this is theta, then this one is R1, which is how much? Total angle, this is the normal, total angle 90. So R1 is 90 minus theta. We know R1 plus R2 is equals to A. So from here R2 will become theta. Clear? Now how to get the value of mu? So you have one thing about R2. You can see E is 90. Whenever in rarer medium the angle is 90 degree, can I say that R2 will be critical angle? Whenever it is the ray has an angle 90 degree in rarer medium, then in denser medium the angle is known as critical angle. And sin theta c is 1 by mu in this case, because the outside medium is air. So from here sin theta c sin R2, which is sin theta c or sin theta, we know is mu rarer by mu denser, so 1 by mu, we can write so. Now let's apply Snell's law at first phase. When we see at the phase AB, if I apply Snell's law, what will I write? Sin I is 30 degree. Let me write over here, sin I is mu sin R1. I hope you agree to this. Now what is sin I? I is given as 30, so sin 30 is 1 by 2. Mu, keep it mu only. What is R1? R1 is 90 minus theta. If R1 is 90 minus theta, can I say sin R1 is sin 90 minus theta? Sin 90 minus theta is cos theta. Sin 90 minus theta is cos theta. Now how to get cos theta? Whenever you know one trigonometric ratio, you can find the other trigonometric ratio very easily. Sin theta is perpendicular by hypotenuse. So base will be this. So what is the value of cos theta? Cos theta is base by hypotenuse. So cos theta becomes root mu square minus 1 by mu. So mu cancels. So from here we have to find the value of mu, square both sides. Mu square minus 1 becomes 1 by 4. So mu square becomes 5 by 4. Mu becomes root 5 by 2. Let's see which option is correct for this. The second one, root 5 by 2. So I hope you got this concept. What all you have to do, what all you have to remember. R1 plus R2 is A, and whenever angle in rarer medium is 90, then in denser medium it is called critical. So R2 over here is the critical angle, and critical angle is always given as sin inverse mu rarer by mu denser. So here denser medium is the medium inside the prism, rarer medium is the outer medium. If not mentioned, we will take it as air. So 1 by mu, that's why we are putting. Clear to all of you? Okay. We'll take one last question for today, wherein the minimum energy required to launch a satellite. So this is a question of gravitation. So you can see from there that minimum energy required to launch a satellite of mass m from the surface of Earth. Now Earth's mass is given as capital M and radius capital R in a circular orbit at an altitude of 2r from the surface of Earth is. So let's try to understand that when we consider Earth as a sphere, obviously, so O being the center of Earth, there is a circular orbit Don't be confused with the altitude and the radius of the orbit. Now radius of the orbit is always taken from the center. So if you consider this length, this is the orbital radius, r. So orbital radius, and this is the altitude. they have given the altitude as 2r. Altitude means height. So RO is, you can see, h plus r, which is actually 3r. So RO is orbital radius and h is the altitude. Now a mass small m is to be made as a satellite. So you pick the mass from here. Let's take this point as A. What is A over here? Initial position of the mass. Now it is not given to move, so at rest. And you pick it and put it over here to a point B. Position of small m on circular orbit. Here it becomes what? Satellite. So when it becomes a satellite, it has kinetic energy as well as potential energy. So now they are asking what is the energy required? Energy required or work done, minimum energy required to launch from here to that position. So what we can say is the external agency needs to do work. Work done will be equal to change in mechanical energy of the mass m under the influence of gravity of Earth. Now Earth's mass is given as capital M. What is the mechanical energy of, so we will say final mechanical energy when it is at the position B and when it is at position A. Now when it is at position B, it becomes a satellite. This value is nothing but the total mechanical energy of a satellite. And at A, since it is at rest, so it is only potential energy. Which potential energy? Gravitational potential energy at point A. Because initially it is at rest. So when we write the mechanical energy of a satellite, what is the formula for mechanical energy of a satellite? You should know this thing. It is minus g mass of planet, here it is Earth, mass of the object divided by 2 times orbital radius. Whereas when we talk of the gravitational potential energy on the surface of Earth, A is on the surface. What is the gravitational energy formula? Minus gmm by separation between the two, that is R. So gravitational potential energy at any point on the surface is minus gmm by R. So that is what we have written. Now in this question we can substitute mass of Earth is given as m, orbital radius we saw is 3r, so 3 2s are 6r, minus minus becomes plus gmm by r. So this becomes gmm 1 minus 1 by 6, which becomes 5 gmm by 6. So you should know the basic thing what I have just told, that whenever we talk of satellites revolving in circular orbits, mechanical energy of a satellite is half of the gravitational potential energy of the satellite and is negative of kinetic energy of the satellite. So its value, as we said, minus g mass of planet, mass of the satellite divided by orbital radius by 2. This is the mechanical energy. Understood? And second thing, when we talk of gravitational potential energy, if this is the center of the planet and this radius of the planet is r, if we see any point on the surface or outside, if we take any point P over here, so here gravitational potential energy, if you place a mass small m here, so it is minus g mass of planet mass small m by r plus h. So this is to be remembered as the formula for gravitational potential energy. So using this concept, work done is equals to change in mechanical energy. By that we get the correct option for this question. I hope these questions, if you go through them, it would help you to understand what all techniques are to be used to solve the question. And again, for the last time, again telling that in order to solve questions, you should be thorough with the concept first. If you have built your concept strongly, then you can solve any question in any given time very fastly. All calculation work or your speed, everything comes later. First, you should be thorough with the concepts. So that's all. We'll be ending this video over here. Thank you.